So, hello everybody. My name is Andres Fielbaum, and I'm going to present you a paper co-authored with Shoshan Bai and Javier Alonso Mora from TU Delft, in which we optimize an on-demand ride-sharing mobility system, but optimizing where to pick up and drop off the users, which are assumed to be able to walk. So, the outline of the presentation. First, we're introducing the problem we're dealing with. Then we formulate it in a more concrete and formal way. Then we propose a solution. Then we simulate our solution over a real-life case. And finally, we provide the most relevant conclusions from our research. So we are working over a centrally controlled mobility system in which users emerge dynamically. So they are not known beforehand, and they are served on demand, sharing the vehicle simultaneously when the routes allow that, when the routes are compatible. So for instance, you can think of Uber Pool, but centrally controlled and with an objective function in which all the agents' interests are taken into account, basically both travelers and the operators. So these shared on-demand systems are promising for transport researchers, because online on-demand can provide great quality for users and efficiency for operators. But in the emerging mobility systems that have become popular in the last years, most of the times they operate as private taxis, so they increase congestion. So sharing the vehicle, which approaches in some way public transport logics, it can be crucial to fight congestion. However, this kind of shared on-demand systems face obstacles of at least two different natures. One of them is that they are very complex from a combinatorial point of view, because they extend two well-known NP-hard problems. And the second one is that sharing might induce long detours to travelers. So to illustrate this second problem, let us consider this example. So the pink vehicle here needs to pick up two passengers, 1 and 2, and then drop them off. In the top row here, the vehicle is providing a traditional door-to-door service, so it needs to take a lot of turns and it has a very long detour to visit all the exact locations. Whereas in the bottom row, the vehicle can drive straight because the users can walk towards the main avenue in which the vehicle is already driving in. So walking can be a crucial tool to decrease the detour induced to the vehicle, which is good, might be good for the vehicle because it's driving less, but also good for the users because they can wait less and they can arrive earlier at their destination. However, if we want to optimize the PUDO points, where PUDO stands for pick up and drop off, then the complexity of the problem is greatly increased. And recall that this problem was already NP-hard, because for each feasible solution, meaning vehicle assigned to users, we have hundreds of new solutions depending on each possible pickup and drop-off location for each of the involved users. So how do we formulate this problem in a formal way? Well, given a set of requests and a fleet of vehicles, how to assign them? And for each passenger, which PUDO point are going to be used? Well, ideally, we would like to solve the assignment problem throughout the day, but the demand is not known beforehand. And the scale of the problem, if you consider, for instance, the whole day, becomes really huge. So we will consider an approach that has been used by several papers, which is solving the assignment problem each delta t. In our simulations, we use delta t equal to 1 minute. And for each of these delta t, we consider a directed graph with a set of nodes and a set of edges. And for each edge, we have the in-vehicle time and the walking time required to tour the edge. We have the set of requests that are pending during this delta t, and the current state of the vehicle at the beginning of this interval, meaning where it is located and which passenger is serving right now. And the output of the algorithm is an assignment that tells each vehicle which request is going to serve and in which route, and to each request, what are the PUDO points going to be. So in order to solve it, we need an objective function, and we also consider some constraints. So we have constraints on the quality of service, meaning maximum waiting times, delay, and walking times per user. These constraints also help us to reduce the size of the problem, the size of the feasible solutions. The capacity of the vehicle, of course, cannot be exceeded. So if vehicles are of capacity 6, then at any point of the route, they cannot have more than 6 passengers, of course. And we also consider that for each user, the walking time towards the pickup point has to be lower than the time before the vehicle arrives. So basically, the user needs to get to the pickup point before the vehicle. The vehicle will never wait for the user in this model. And the objective function that we consider is formed by 3 components that are really described at a high level here. Then you can see in the paper the exact meaning of each of these terms, but at a high level, we consider the user's cost for the current request. That depends, of course, on the assignment that we decide. We have the extra user costs for the previous request. So if there was a vehicle that was already carrying a passenger and now needs to make an extra detour to pick up a new passenger, then the previous passenger also has an extra detour, and that's also part of the objective function. And the operator's costs that are assumed to be proportional to the vehicle's hours traveled. User costs consider waiting, in-vehicle time, walking, but also rejections. Sometimes the system is not going to be able to serve all the requests because there is not enough available vehicles, so each rejection is penalized. How do we solve this complex problem? Well, we build upon the assignment model by Alonso Mora et al. From 2017, which is composed by 3 steps. We first identify all the feasible assignments between a vehicle and a group of requests. And for each of these requests, we optimize the PUDO points once served by this vehicle. And a relevant comment, this is the slowest step of the algorithm because there might be thousands or tens of thousands of these feasible assignments. And for each feasible assignment, we might have hundreds or thousands of PUDO-dependent solutions. Imagine that you request a vehicle and you have 10 corners close to your house in which you could wait for the vehicle. So you have 10 pickup points, 10 possible drop-off points. There you already have 100. And if you are analyzing a group of requests with 2 passengers, then you have 100 times 100, so 10,000, and so on and so on. So this step can really explode because we are considering PUDO-dependent solutions. Once we have identified all these feasible assignments, we select the optimal assignments through an integer linear problem, which is solved with standard software, basically Gurobi. And finally, we rebalance the idle vehicles. This is not needed for one iteration, but this leaves the system in a better state for the following iteration. Idle vehicles means all the vehicles that are not receiving any request in this step and were not serving any request in the previous steps. So this problem is quite complex. Basically, what we show is that it contains 2 subproblems that both of them extend set cover, and set cover is a problem that cannot be even approximated to a constant factor unless P equals to NP. So basically, for any large instance, there is no hope of solving this problem in an exact way, and we must rely on some heuristics. And we proposed 3 heuristics when solving over large instances. First, the route of the vehicles are optimized using an insertion heuristic with a local search on the possible positions, on the possible sequences. Second, the PUDO points are also found through a local search over the graph that starts on the exact origin and on the exact destination. So we don't look at all the possible PUDO points, we perform a local search. And third, for each request, we discard all the vehicles that yield the highest costs when serving that request, which eliminates also all the groups containing that same request for the same vehicle. These heuristics are tested over a toy network, and they are shown to reduce the required computational time in almost 80%, although the quality of the solution is degraded in some 20%. So there is some relevant degradation, and the question is, okay, is this worth of? So is allowing walks worth in a real life instance? Well, we are going to show that the answer is definitely yes. So we simulate 1 hour of operation over Manhattan. The graph is formed by almost 10,000 nodes and 4,000 edges. We have almost 10,000 requests that represent real taxi trips. This is public, an open data set that can be available for the public. We have more than 100 nodes that can be reached at walking distance from each node. So for each node, you have about 10,000 possible PUDO combinations, 100 times 100. And we are testing 3 scenarios, 3,000 vehicles of capacity 6, 2,000 vehicles of capacity 9, and then we go back to the first scenario, but with no operator cost. That is a condition that it's assumed in many of previous papers that study ride-sharing systems. So this is the graph of Manhattan. The red zones means that we have a lot of requests emerging here in the center of the network. So these are the results. For each scenario, we compared with walks and without walks. And as you can see, the most relevant savings are in the percentage of rejections. So a very, very relevant number of the rejections can be saved thanks to making users to walk. And not only rejections, also the average delays are diminished in relevant numbers thanks to walks. Waitings do not change much. And the other relevant aspect is that average walks are about 1 minute. So we're not asking the passengers to walk really long distances to achieve these savings. They can really walk short distances, and the system can improve significantly. What about operators? Well, if we look at the first 2 scenarios in which operators' costs are part of the objective function, we see that the vehicles hours traveled are also diminished in a relevant way. Please notice that this also means that congestion is diminished. And we also showed that the percentage of people that needs to walk is relevant. So this is why we achieve such a relevant results. It is because a large number of users, more than 1/3, are requested to walk, with the exception of the third scenario in which we don't care about operators' costs. So conclusions and future research. Allowing walks in the ride-sharing scheme increases the complexity of the assignment problem, because now each possible assignment between users and vehicles present many feasible PUDO points. So this is so it was already a complex problem, and it is much more complex now. Second, the proposed method is able to solve the problem over real-life scales. So this obstacle here is being overcome thanks to the method we propose, and it yields very, very nice results. Future research, well, we are using very simple heuristics. We could use more sophisticated ones that might yield better results. There is some quite research regarding anticipatory methods for ride sharing. Basically, you don't know the future demand, but you can assume some structure of the future demand to improve the results. And those anticipatory methods could take walking into account. And finally, there are other relevant aspects of ride sharing that can relate to walking, like reliability, integration with public transport, and pricing. Pricing, for instance, can be very relevant to convince users that walking is a good idea. So, thank you for your attention. I hope to see you at the conference to discuss about the paper and to solve any questions you might have. And of course, if you want more details, you can write to us via email. The paper has been submitted, but it's not. But it is being peer reviewed right now, so we don't have a public version yet. But we are happy to discuss further the details via email or in the conference. So thank you very much, and see you in the conference. Bye bye.